Deeper into the cybersecurity problem that crippled the city of Jacksonville Beach earlier this week, causing City Hall to close. It has now reopened, but city officials are still unable to receive emails. The city says that residents should know, though, that all emergency services are working at 100%. Chris Freedman, CEO of OnDefend, a cybersecurity company, is joining us this morning to help kind of explain how incidents like this happen. I know that you're not intimately involved in this, right? So we're talking in generalities because the city of Jacksonville Beach has just not released a whole lot of information about this. What typically kind of happens in situations where there's a cybersecurity attack involving a business, as an example?
Absolutely. Well, they're investigating currently, so they're trying to find out what the source was, what's been impacted. In this case, it looks like the citizens' data has not been exposed, which is so far great news. The city has critical infrastructure that it manages. It looks like that's not been impacted or denied, which is great news. So they are forensically analyzing what's available, what's not available, and the overall impact and how to recover.
In general, how long do these kinds of, this kind of crippling of a system last?
Days, weeks, and sometimes months. Really depends on the overall impact of the cyber attack. It also depends on the resiliency of the organization, how prepared they are. Do they have their data backed up? Do they have a plan of what to do? Do they have an insurance policy? All this impacts that timeline.
Is there any way to find out, if any information has been leaked on the dark web?
Actually, there is a website. It's called I Have Been Pwned, PWNED. It's a great site to see if your login credentials or personal identification information is out there.
And then I know we saw this actually earlier this week, in fact, in Fulton County, that something presumably similar happened to this, a cybersecurity event of some sort. Are local governments typically, the target here? And why?
They absolutely are. First of all, they house all of our data, so they're a one-to-many attack. They house our critical infrastructure, so if that's denied, it's a great bargaining chip for a ransom. The last part is typically state and local entities, governments, are typically underfunded, so they don't have evolved cyber programs, which makes them softer targets. That needs to change systematically. And
smaller departments. This is a small community at Jacksonville Beach. Fulton County is the same way.
The smaller, the less investment. That needs to change.
In terms of the ripple effect in situations like this to the residents themselves, let's just talk a little bit about that.
Well, at this point, we don't exactly know what happened.
I know,
right?
this is what's so strong. Yeah,
the data has not been exposed to our knowledge, which is great. Yeah. Great news. The critical infrastructure is still up. That's great news. I think they just have to, the citizens have to watch News4Jax and see for updates and communicate with the city if they have any questions.
Yeah, can we assume, though, I mean, obviously, these cyber attack, hackers, so to speak, they want something, and it's usually money.
That's right.
So in the long run, it does end up costing residents something, right?
Inevitably, like the city will pay one way or another, either through the ransom or putting their own data back together and restoring it overall. So there is a financial impact. Also access just to, critical infrastructure, day-to-day things that they need. It's important.
So for those who are watching who have a small business as an example, what is your message to them?
Invest in a cybersecurity program, even the basics like training your employees to prepare for attacks, getting defenses in place to defend against these things, testing those defenses. It's one of the reasons we actually built BlindSpot, a attack simulation solution that simulates ransomware attacks to help companies prepare for the real thing. Housed here in Jacksonville, born here in Jacksonville.
Oh, which is fantastic. It's interesting, too, because I think that there's a message here also for employees of these companies.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Absolutely. Be vigilant, have a defensive posture when interacting online, whether it be email, whether it be social media. I always say, think before you click.
It's funny because large companies, and we're one of those, we go through all of these different training seminars, and the reality is that maybe smaller companies don't have that, but don't click on anything you don't recognize in email, right? I mean, a lot of times it comes in that way.
It takes one mistake. You just have to have a defensive posture, assume it's an adversary, and then make your decision from there.
And what about individuals, protecting their just home investments? I mean, we all get online probably and do our banking.
If you get an email from the bank, don't click the link in the email. Go to the bank website to log in. That is the biggest thing. They harvest your credentials through fake websites. So when you get an email, don't just click. Go to the original website, log in, or access the systems. That's critical.
And just quickly, would you explain, because sometimes people, they have the same password as an example, and once somebody gets a hold of that, then it's amazing what access they have. I mean, just simply having your social security number, what does that open you up to?
Well, first of all, you should have different passwords on each
course.
system, different letters, numerical, things like that. And also there's two-factor authentication. So when you log in, you get a text on your phone. That's a great way to defend your data. But yes, if your social security number's out there, your ID is exposed. So there's actually great things like LifeLock that you can monitor your credit and your ID. That's a great proactive measure.
Chris, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it, kind of digging deeper and helping us all have a better understanding about how these cyber attacks happen and how to protect ourselves as well.